now I've got this really cool idea that I want to do. And I'm going to talk to people and see if I can make it a reality. Stay tuned. Potentially massive, massive. If it is possible, then people would lose their shit, I think. A bunch of people from that corner being like, make it here. And someone said it was KSI's team doing that. KSI's coaches.
No way.
I heard that as well. I couldn't see it.
I couldn't obviously see, but it would make sense. They have a vested interest in not wanting me to win.
Hello and welcome back to the season finale of Misfits News. I'm your host, Ben the Bane Davis, as always, joined by my co-host, Biel. We've listened to the feedback, and we're planning some bigger and better segments, and that starts with this episode today. But before we get into all of the great stuff, Biel, how are you?
Ben, I'm doing fantastic, and I can't wait for Season 3. Season 2 was great, but this season is going to be even better. However, what a way to sign it off, this time with the Wade concept making a return on Misfits. How are we doing, sir?
I'm good, man. How is everybody? How is the Misfits news team?
Better now, baby. Better now. Well, let's kick into it, man. Content creator, commentator, now fighter, undefeated heavyweight, as some would say. This is a crazy journey that you've been on, man.
Am I a heavyweight? I don't think. I mean,
That's
I guess is it the Misfits heavyweight? I know it's different. You guys have different weight classes. You know what I'm saying? So,
I think it's Misfits
because I heard
heavyweight.
Bridgerweight too, and I'm like, I was 199. I'm a cruiserweight, dude. I don't know what this is. Whatever it is, yes, I'm undefeated in whatever weight class is being thrust upon me. Pause.
Now, no deal. But we had a lot of time after the fight to chop it up, and I heard a lot about your reflections on the fight. But for the people back home, when you watched that back with Mosiah Pinder, what were the big things that stood out to you about your performance?
I just felt like everybody was really surprised by how calm and collected I was, and I think it maybe even surprised me a little bit because everybody talks about pre-fight nerves and all the stuff that goes into it. And I definitely had that, but it wasn't as pronounced as it maybe is for some other people. And I don't know why that was, to be honest. I felt it, that it was a big moment. That was probably the biggest moment of my life, but I didn't feel overwhelmed by it. So that was probably the biggest takeaway, is that when that moment comes, you don't really know how you're going to react, right? Until you do it. And that was another reason I was fighting, is like, how do I react in that moment? Because I played other sports and I remember how that moment is when I know it's a big moment and my mind reacts to it. And this time it just felt collected, focused, ready, and ready to take on the task at hand. I look back at that fight and I'm like, excuse my language, who the fuck is that guy? You know what I'm saying? Like that, I don't even, I'm in content creator kind of mode right now after the fight is over now. And I'm coming back down to reality. I'm looking back, I'm like, that's a stone cold fucking killer, that guy. Come on now. I don't know. It felt good to be out there. And I put myself in a good position for sure.
I think some people are calling it like one of the best debuts for a fighters on Misfits, which is very hard to disagree with. And I want to ask, we've got BJ coming in a bit, but when you first linked up with him and you were initially getting those sparring rounds in with Bruckner and Ham, was that similar to the guy that we saw in the ring on fight night, or did you kind of carve out that composure and that calmness throughout the weeks you had with BJ?
BJ's so smart. I don't want to give away too much of what we do, and kind of how our process is, because, who knows what's next for me, but he's so smart in how he brought me in. People don't know this. We kind of were going to just do a week or so to see if it was even going to make any sense. Like, I didn't go down there. I went down there with the idea like, oh, I'm staying here. But BJ was like, come down here. We'll see like if it makes sense for us to work together, whatever. I was like, no, I'm staying. But he just took what he saw and just carved out this game plan and this ability to maximize what I do well, or what he's seen I do well. And then, it was kind of one of those things. The more I stayed around him, the more he got to see that he didn't know I had. And the more that I got to see that I didn't know I had either. So there was just little things that, as the fight went on, culminated in fight night. But yeah, some of those things came out in sparring, and like I said, we found out what I did well and things that I needed to work on, and all that stuff was just mastermind by BJ for sure.
Absolutely. And I think obviously going from commentating into boxing, it's a mass transition, but having your athletic background helps massively. But would you say was your biggest challenge in that whole development phase of coming into being a stone cold killer?
Yeah, it was the mindset for sure. They worked on it with me all camp. You know, they were like, "Wait, you got to stop being so nice. You have to." And it is just one of those things where I'm not used to. You know, I'm a little bit of a shit talker. Like people know this. Like I love to be like a little bit of a pariah, and if we're gonna talk, we're gonna talk, and I'll take it wherever. You know, I don't care. We're gonna go there. We're gonna go there. But on like an actual like, I need to change my mindset from just whatever, nice guy, normal guy, to I am going to fight someone. Like that is not, that's not the same thing. It's not even the same thing as like, a football mindset. And that's what we kind of used for this camp. It's because what is familiar to me, like Sensei, when he came into town, had talked with BJ and we started to kind of formulate the game plan around a game day, right? We're in practice, we're going to game day, like switch your mind like you would on game day, game day. Every time we sparred, game day, game day. So I remember when I was sparring, I would wake up and I knew my sparring partners, and these are people that are not Josh and Tristan. Obviously, I know them well, but we had other guys too. Shout out to Kai, shout out to Eduardo, my guys. They're local guys down there, and they were like, listen, you're not friends with them today. You're not speaking with them today. You're not on your phone today. Like I wouldn't even get on my phone. We would just leave it at home and we would go and spar. And it changed, like it made me change how I interacted. And it was definitely a completely different side of me.
I want to ask more about those days because in the camps that I've had, when you would do those hard spar days, there
Mm,
was a level of anxiety and like
for
a
sure.
simmering,
For
oh shit,
sure.
like this is tough. Walk me through like, yeah, that mentality in those days.
Again, this is stuff that's got to go to BJ and Sensei and Coach Chavez as well. They knew how to like bring me along, right? One of the big problems I had when I started, training in California was I was just thrown in there and started fighting. It wasn't like
Mhm.
I was learning much in the spar. I would learn things, but honestly, not as much as I would have wanted to. And what I'd learned with BJ was like, 6,000% quicker. But it was just like you're fighting. And okay, cool. That makes me like get a mentality like I can do this. But I'm also, and people have seen the picture of me. I was getting my shit pushed in sparring. Like I blamed it on this thing. I was like, oh, my mic arm hit me. No, I was getting fucked up, dude. Like, and it wasn't fun. Like, it wasn't fun. It
Yeah.
wasn't like, okay, like, what am I doing? I'm not even going to make it to the fucking fight because I'm just getting destroyed in here by these 9, 10, 11 and 0 pros over here in Orange County. And it's like, oh, this is not helping me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it doesn't make me want to come back and do it. I don't have to fight. Like, I don't want to keep
Yeah,
coming
you're
in
almost
here.
like, I'm gonna
Like, what
simulate
am
an
I
injury,
doing?
you know?
Yeah, like I'm just getting brain damage for fun, I guess, whatever. So they were really good about knowing how to bring me along. My sparring partners were great about it too. And it was just a natural progression. And again, we had a short amount of time. It wasn't like we had 2, 3, 4 months. We say 30 days because I was down there for 40 days or something, but I had to leave and go to most valuable prospects right in the middle. So I had to do that for 7 days. I was in Florida without BJ, without any training. I was just doing row, like the row machine, and just like trying to shadow box. But yeah, the spars themselves are super anxiety driven, man. At least the first couple for me were, because it's like, I know what I've experienced in California and I was just getting tuned up on. So this was going to happen here. And again, I credit to all the people in camp. We built a game plan and brought me along into the point where sparring was normal. That was just part of what
Yeah.
we were doing. And it started to feel more and more like the fight itself.
I don't want to pull the curtain back too much and dig deep in the technical side of it, but there was one aspect of your game plan that I'd love to pick your brain about, and
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
the framing with your left hand. I thought you did an
Yeah.
excellent job of touching
Everybody
with the
hated
left
us.
and then boom, finding the right. Like that accuracy. Talk to me
Who
about
Yeah.
that because
hated
that's
it?
that's high level.
Everybody, not the on fight night, no one hated it, but everybody in camp when we were putting it out hated it. Right? Look on
Mhm.
Twitter. What is he doing with his lead hand? His lead hand needs to be by his face. Da, da, da. And again, I can't get mad at him because look at Mister Fucking Poindexter here that had always said the same thing until I got around a real boxing general, a real understanding, X's and O's technical savant of the sport, and BJ Flores. When I got around him, I started to realize that nuance is good for certain fighters and certain styles and certain builds. My lead hand being out, yeah, without giving too much, whatever. was just a different way for me to combat what we thought Mosiah was going to do, which turned out to be exactly what he did. So it was
Yeah.
just another way for me to feel comfortable defensively and provide offense very quickly if I needed to.
I want to talk about the defense because the first 3 rounds, you could say, man, what a wash for Wade. It looked like you were en
Yeah.
route to a TKO. And then I think there might have been a couple cardio issues
You
in that
think?
fourth and final round.
You
Yeah.
think?
Talk about that adversity, man, because I think, again,
Yeah.
that's what really showed the character. And, he did touch you a couple times in that last round. So that fourth round, walk
Yeah.
me through what was going through your head.
Yeah, he did, man. So we come out of so really it started in the second round. Because I at the end of the second round, I hurt him. I clipped him with a left hook, and his eyes got real wide. And I was like, okay, this is the moment. My experience level isn't high enough to realize it was about 5 seconds left. So if this was at 30 seconds left, maybe, I can frame off and go to work. But I hit him with a left hook, which I didn't throw many left hooks all night. So he didn't see it. It was the one shot, like he had continued to see the right hand. So he kind of, would roll with it a little bit. But he didn't see any left hooks. And I finally threw one and it clipped him right on the cheek. And then I threw a second one and it clipped him on the chin. And so he kind of like fell back into the ropes, and I was trying to swarm on him. And I threw, if you guys go back, I threw a right hand split right down the middle in that exchange, and it barely missed his chin. And I was like, dang. And he did a good job of grabbing me, and then the time went, and I was like, woo, I feel that. That was a little too much. I exerted a little too much energy, and that's really all it was. The third round, I was still I felt fully in control, but we got after the end of the third, we got to sit down, and I was feeling it. And I kind of BJ's right there, and I was listening to BJ, but I looked over and they were going crazy in his corner. You gotta go right now, got it. And I was like, "Fuck, this guy's gonna come out like an absolute bull." And he did. Fair play to him. He came out, and dude, he must be made of iron or something, man. Mosiah, I got to give all that my respect to that guy. He took some shots, and he was in that fourth round walking forward. I was like, "Yo, this man's coming." I didn't feel at any point threatened in the fourth, and I don't mean that disrespectfully. I just felt I had seen everything. So I knew I was dead tired. He did hit me with one good shot right as the fourth began. I was like, oh, can't get hit with that again. But he did. I had seen everything he threw. So I was like, okay, I can roll with stuff. Okay, hit me. You're not hurting me. But like, I'm going to touch you with this jab, keep my distance, and try not to exert too much energy right now. Because I knew I didn't have much in my gas tank left. So I'd seen all he had. And he was tired too, but he was bringing it. So fair play to him. He's a monster.
I think to sort of summarize this whole segment, especially about your fight, is I want a breakdown from Wade Concept of your
Yeah, it's
performance.
coming.
Could you
It's coming.
rank it? Could you rank it from A to?
Like a letter grade.
Yeah, give me a little grade because everyone wants a breakdown. I know it's coming to the channel, so let's just get a grading.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow, there we go.
Yeah. I would say I think BJ he'll come in a second. He'll probably tell you, but I think he said it was a B. I'm a little bit of a cynical kind of guy. I think everybody knows that. So if I'm gonna be harsh on others, I'll be harsher on myself. I would be like a C minus, man. Maybe like something
You
like
do C
that.
minus.
Just because there are so many things, and I'll go into it in my video, but there's so many things that, of course, in 2020, in hindsight, you go, oh, I could do better. I could do better. But we'll say it was a C because I did some things well. I did handle adversity. I did, keep myself calm and cool in there and landed some big shots. But there are other things that I think I could have done a lot better. Which everybody thinks they could have, but when I watch it back, I'm like, it's right there. What do you like? How did I not? One of those things. So I'll say C.
See, all right, there we go. I want to pull back from your fight and think about this week as a whole because there was a little bit of pressure, and I think there were a lot of eyes on you given the really complex history that you have with the company. So, talk to me about what it was like to be back in the Misfits atmosphere. With Mams and JJ, like that had to have been weird.
It was a little weird. Speaking of pressure, when I watched the fight back, I saw the DAZN like guess who's gonna win thing or predict the winner. It was like 82% me. I'm gonna say this right now. Mosiah was absolutely sandbagging in those little like pad things he was doing. He was granted he's still green and so am I, but there was a little bit of sandbagging because when he was throwing right hands in the fight, I was like, that ain't a right hand I've ever seen you throw on a mitts. Like he was bringing heat with that thing. So there was a little bit of which we anticipated, but there was a little bit of like overestimating and underestimating from both sides. I don't think that Mosiah thought I was a good enough athlete to be like in there and do some of the things I was doing, just because no one's really seen it before out of me because that's not what I put on camera for years, right? So both of us were like, yeah, you think so? Yeah, we were real sure about ourselves until we got in there. But yeah, it was weird. It was fun because I got to talk my shit, which is always fun, you know. Anytime I get to come back and again, I will say this, they were very respectful to me all week, both Mams and JJ. And it's an awkward position for them too, because I'm over there calling Mams a little man and doing all that. And listen, I'm saying things because I mean it. You know, I don't say things just to say it, you know. So I'm in those moments, I'm like, we're gonna fire off. Don't get me started. Don't poke the bear because I'll go back at you, you know. But they were very respectful to me, and Mams even had a nice message on Twitter afterwards. So it was weird, but I got to see you guys, man. I got to see my boys. I got to be around people that I enjoy working with. I got to talk to Riley after the fight. Like it was all super, super cool for me. And the behind the scenes, you know, I kept to myself. You know, what's really odd, people don't know. I saw Mosiah like 3 times in the hotel. Like every time I'd go to the elevator, he was in there. And I'm like, oh, all
It's
right,
that
you
weird
go
atmosphere. They
first.
put all the fighters in the same hotel, and
It's
you
a
end
fighter
up just
hotel. It's
bumping
gonna
into each
happen.
other.
Yeah. But I
Mm.
think we were even on the same floor in this, like he was right across the hall from me, I think. So those are just
Should have
things that
just
Get
kicked
happen
away
the
on
from
door
fight
him.
in
week.
midnight.
Yeah.
We kept seeing each other and we just kept going fight night, like saying it to each other. We're like, all right, whatever. But yeah, no, it was weird to be on the other side of it more than anything else because I'm usually on y'all's side. I'm usually sitting there at the presser with my little notes going through what I want to talk about, like Ben was, and to be on the other side and not have any notes, it almost felt, I don't know, more nerve wracking because you don't really know what kind of responses and things. It's your first time going through it. Like the weigh in, the weigh in, you know, we do the whole thing and the guy goes, take your shoes off. And I'm like, no, like I'm not because we've already done it. Like I'm not, this is
Yeah.
pull the curtain back on everybody. It's not the official weigh in. We did it, you know, the morning of. So I'm
The
getting on
scale's
the
not even
scale.
on. You know, the
The
scale's not
scale's
even
not
on
on.
on the
I'm
stage.
I'm gonna stand there with my shoes on because I don't want to have to go back and put my shoes on again because
Mhm.
again, credit to BJ Flores. He goes, don't take your shoes off because if this guy pushes you, you need to have like your ground, right? So I'm like, I'm not taking my shoes off. And they're like, shoes off. I'm like, for what? And I just stood there and like did my little pose. So all that stuff was weird and it was fun, but yeah, man, an experience I did not ever really expect myself to do. Like I never really expected to fight. Yeah, it was kind of in the back of my mind, but to go out and do it, yeah, it was just awesome.
I kind of have one last one on your fight before we talk about Darren's performance and the other aspects of fight week. But I know you and your dad are incredibly close, and you've got a
Yeah, yeah.
really strong support system. What was their reaction after you won? Did you get any good messages from the family?
Yeah, my mom was there. She was a nervous wreck. My girlfriend had to basically be by her side at all times during the fight, which I think is everybody's mom if their son's fighting, you know. What's crazy is my family, they're not, massive fight fans outside of watching what I do. They're big football fans and stuff like that. We're from the South. But I was getting my brothers being like, kick his ass, go get him. I'm like, my brothers never taught, this is crazy to hear. And my dad was so funny after the fight. There's a video somewhere. You guys should find it. I think IFN. It's on one of my videos, but he called me and I put it on speaker after I won. He was like, my dad's Southern redneck. He was like,
Hey, you look good, dude. For 3 rounds, you look like the best ever.
I was a little tired, but I felt good in there. I saw everything. He didn't hurt me with anything. I was cracking him with stuff, and I felt good.
where'd you learn to punch like that? You used to be a little sissy. So it's so funny. So yeah, so everybody was super supportive. My mom was just super proud, and that's all I really wanted to do, man, was make the family proud and do the family name right. And yeah, we were able to do it. So it was a good night.
You made us all proud, Wade. I think you did a fantastic job, and
Thanks,
one of
man.
the standout fights. But someone else that really surprised me that night was obviously the main event, Darren Till. I was actually really shocked by that performance. I thought Darren Till wasn't going to be as good as he was, and I want your sort of assessment of how he performed that night and where you should really go from there.
Yeah, Darren was slick, man. That was the thing I wondered. It was like, he is very violent, Darren is as a fighter, but he's also very, at least in the MMA space, very fundamental, or I shouldn't say fundamental, very basic. And I don't mean that badly, but he had, very straightforward attacks. He had the teep, he had the lead hand that he would kind of lead to a hook, and then the left hand. And, sometimes that would turn into an elbow and he would land that on guys, but sometimes he would get caught rushing in doing that. This time, and I think maybe because the sport of boxing is a little bit more variable and he can be a little bit more loose and he can bend at the waist a lot more and not have to worry about kicks and takedowns and things, he was able to walk Anthony on the shots, the freaking slip uppercuts, the left hands, the ability to have his gloves right here at his head and kind of peek through those, pull back, bang. Like he did a lot very, very well. It did surprise me though. It surprised me not that he was a high level striker, but that he had taken to boxing specifically so much to the point where it's like he's obviously got the Muay Thai background, but I think boxing specific, he's probably got a lot more than he told people. And people are saying about me, by the way, which is not the truth. People are like, "Oh, wait,
he's been secretly having fights."
No, like I think people, it's hard to like say now because okay, I did a little fucking kickboxing training at Team Oyama in Irvine for like a year and a half to 2 years, but it wasn't consistent and it wasn't in a fight and it was mostly on bags. We never sparred. First time I sparred was in California. So it's like, I've never, this is all new to me still, so people are like, whoa, wait, he's got out. I'm like, no, dude, this is freaking 5 weeks of me just figuring it out. But again, that's credit to BJ.
What were some of the takeaways for AT? Because obviously short notice for the face of Misfits, a tough opponent, but he had a pretty solid 5th round, and that was, I'd say the one shining moment for him.
I don't know, man. I don't want to downplay the 5th round because it felt like it was AT's best round, but also Darren was just like, okay, like
maybe taking that round off.
Yeah, like whatever. Yeah. And then he just because he had just dominated, for 4 rounds. What changed? But I don't know, man. AT came up in a lot of weight, that wasn't his natural kind of weight class. He put on a ton of weight. Like I watched him weigh in. I was like, you look like the guy that ate AT. You know what I mean? Like he was jacked, but he just looked like a bowling ball. Yeah. It's like he, whatever he is, 5'4", 5'5", I don't know, 5'6". Ben, Biel, you guys are short. You'll know this.
Whoa, whoa.
Sorry, we're not 6'4".
Anything under 6 feet to me is like 4'11". I don't know. There's nothing. There's no in
just
between.
gnomes to you.
Yeah. Did you hear Biel shout out his number too? He's all 5'9". You see him? He got
he's proud. He's repping it. He's repping it.
But no, like he's too small or like too short to be walking around fighting at 195 or something. So
yeah.
I for AT, I want him to take some time off, goodness sakes, especially after whatever, I heard happened after where he was, going through it and collapse and all this. Like, this takes some time off. I know he wants to be a company guy, but I think this time the company can do right by him by just saying, hey, man, 6 months, let's chill. 6 months to 8 months, just hang out for a bit. Because he took a bunch of big shots in that fight. So
there was a couple other notable things from X Series 20. One of them that didn't go over well at all on social media was the announcement of KSI's opponent.
Oh, yes. Let's talk about this.
Excited Wade. There he is.
Let's talk about this.
I'll give you the floor on this one. KSI's opponent being announced as Wayne Bridges. They brought out the old man only to then reveal it was actually an old man.
It was actually an old man.
Against.
Whose idea was that? No, that was mine. The greatest part of it.
No, I'm joking.
Yeah,
that's the greatest part of it. Oh yeah, you guys have got blamed for a lot of that stuff. The greatest part of it is that they do the whole round robin tournament of who the next opponent was going to be. I saw Big Zoo was one of the guys they panned to, and then they go to the old guy. Walks out with a cane and like taps the second rope like he was going to cast a spell or something. And then they go to another old guy that looked like someone's dad. And again, this is you're getting the American take because I don't know who Wayne Bridge is. You could have called him London Bridge for all I knew because he was falling down trying to get to the freaking ring. So it was like, I don't know the guy. So first off, I didn't even see it live, but I'm watching it. I'm like, okay, is this guy some kind of, retired boxer that I've never heard of? He looked like someone's dad that had just chopped some wood and then like came in and it just went over like a wet fart, didn't it? Like the crowd started booing, and that's in KSI's like, domain. This is where he doesn't get booed, you know what I mean? Or at least if he's getting booed, it's because the crowd is working with him. This time they were like, fuck this. You know what I mean? So Yeah, it was just a dumb move. I get the like the brainchild behind it. And you guys are gonna have to tell me, from what I heard, there was supposed to be somebody else, and then they just could not for the life of them get people for KSI for March, and they're really trying to get that one done so he can get back in and 18 months off and all that. But to go to that guy after you've said so much about Jake, and the old man allegations and all that, and then you kind of do not maybe the same thing, but almost the Nate Robinson thing. 4 years later, it's like, oh, and this guy does have a fight, and I saw he had some, yeah, he could box a little bit, but it was never going to work. And the idea to do it and then the convincing themselves to follow through on it was all wrong. So, and the only thing that really got to me, and I said this yesterday in my video, it kind of concerned me, was that KSI was like,
I love it, man. I love the negativity. I love drawing a reaction from people.
and I was like, you're missing what's going on, right? Like, he wants people to watch his fights, whether they like it or don't, whether they boo him or love him. But I was like, the thing is, they don't want to watch this fight. That's what you're missing. Is like they're not mad in like a, oh, let's see villain KSI way. They're mad like, no, we don't care about this. And I hope that's this reaction has kind of like opened him up to being like, okay, yeah, I can't just fucking do whatever. Like, I need to be able to still satisfy these, the idea of what KSI is, which is this underdog guy who takes, the biggest risks and bets on himself. And when he does that, he does astronomical things for what people believe he can do. And that's what created this whole thing, guys. That's what it is. That's why all three of us are sitting here. The guy said, I'm going to go fight Logan Paul when Logan's bigger, scarier, whatever, get a draw. I'm going to go do it again in his backyard and wins. That's why this is all here. So I hope they realize that.
And that does beg the question. If, let's say, you had the power to matchmake and decide what would be next for JJ, given that there's this, year plus layoff from the defeat to Tommy
It's
Fury.
tough. I'm not going to lie. It's a tough spot.
Yeah.
Because what do you do? You throw him in with Darren Till after that performance? I mean, it's a risk. It checks all the boxes for what KSI, the nightmare, all that. But like you said, 18 months off, coming off a loss. I don't know that that's the right move yet. Maybe for May. Honestly, if it was me, it's tough because you run into, and this is the other thing. I said Jake Paul fucked up influencer boxing. He can, in a good or bad way, however you want to look at it. He took the level and said, cool, this influencer stuff is fun, but I'm going to go infiltrate real fighting. And when I get to real fighting, I'm going to get all these champions from MMA and bring them over because they have a legitimacy added to their name. Right? And he did it and then raised the level of that name every time he fought until he got to Tommy and lost. And his bounce back fight was Nate Diaz. And then more boxers. It wasn't, not the soccer player thing. So you got to kind of exist in that same window. So I would have said Mike Perry.
Yeah.
But now you run into the fact that Jake already beat him. So it's like, yeah, if you beat him, what does it really matter? Like, okay, you beat him quicker. Like, what? I don't know. So it's tough, man. You got to find somebody that is a game opponent that has some credibility to their name, that would prepare him in some way for the toughness he would see out of Darren Till, right? Or the, the ability he'd see out of Darren Till if they're going to make that fight. I don't know if they will, but whatever. And someone that's not a soccer player, someone's a fighter. Mike Perry would have been my pick. People won't like this because JJ is now way bigger than Gibb, but JJ and Gibb would have been fun. Had they not done the slim thing, that would have been cool. Because people would buy it. You know what I'm saying? People would be invested in it, not just because it's Gibb undefeated, but it's KSI and Gibb. You want to talk about the UK getting on board, and sure, KSI would be favored. Sure, of course. It's better than freaking Wayne Bridge, and it's just the start of the year, and you can do all that other stuff. So I don't know. I think they're in a tough spot, and I hope they get it figured out. I do want to say this, though. It isn't just Mams. at least from what I understand. And I'm on the outside now. You know, I used to be a lot closer to these things, but I know it's not just him. So people have given him shit over, you know, opponent selection, and maybe rightfully so sometimes with the way, you know, public negotiations and all that stuff go. But this one's not on him, I don't think. So you don't think you'd ever see the day where I came to the defense of Mams Taylor, but this one
Here it
I
is.
feel is not his.
The
day.
day
Here we
arrived.
are. So, there you go.
I sort of wanted to touch on something you said earlier. You said Jake Paul like took the scene more professionally. He ruined the scene by taking it more professionally. Now, KSI coming back, I've always asked the question, why does he need to come back and what is his goals? And I would like to get your opinion on that. Where does he sort of go from here if Jake Paul isn't the end goal?
Well, so you said ruin the scene, and you could be right with that. At the same time, he also elevated the scene, you know?
Absolutely.
Like, he brought some legitimacy to this that brought another audience that wasn't here, you know, the audience of that casual combat sports fan that didn't really know anything about influencer boxing. He brought that in. So yeah, it's tough because Jake elevated the scene and created so many new opportunities, so many eyeballs off the back of what, you know, KSI and Logan did. But yeah, it also for everybody else went, okay, you better keep up. You better step up or step aside because this is where we're going, you know? So for JJ, yeah, if he doesn't fight Jake, I don't know. That's always been the end goal, right? It's out of his own mouth. He even said it to you a couple days ago, Biel. He's like, I want the Jake Paul fight. He said he's moving up in weight. He said he's fighting at a weight heavier than he's ever fought. The heaviest he fought was at 193. So 195, is that what we're saying? I don't know. The only other thing he would have if he really wanted to just finally, you know, lay it to rest, and I know that sounds super, you know, sounds bad, but it's just like he's not going to fight forever, would be to rematch Tommy and beat him, you know? That could be the only way he could probably get that satisfaction of, okay, well, I didn't fight Jake, but I beat the guy that beat him. Outside of that, I don't really know what the goal could be, you know?
If you, and this is all, of course, hypothetical, but let's say you had Tommy Fury in the ring on Saturday night instead of Anthony Taylor. How do you speculate him versus Till would have played out?
It would have been, I think, it would have been a different fight. It would have been fought differently for sure. Like AT was, I thought, from what I saw of it, it's still a bit of a blur. He was caught too much lead right hand, lead right hand, lead right hand, which he's done to a lot of guys in the influencer space. But that's the, you know, against the southpaw, a lead right hand's a great weapon unless they see it, right? Just like a southpaw's lead left hand is a great weapon versus an orthodox fighter. Saul Poppy, you can ask him, unless they see it. And Tell saw it so much that he just slipped outside and banged his counter shot over the top. Tommy is going to be on his jab a little more. He's a volume puncher. Could that have stifled a lot of what Darren was doing? And you know, racked up some points. I don't think Tommy would have knocked him out, but I could have seen Tommy beating Darren on that night for sure. Not because Darren's bad or because he had a bad performance, because Tommy does a lot of things to interrupt snipers, you know? So you have to get control of Tommy's jab if you're going to beat him. I don't know that Darren was ready for that yet, but I'll tell you this, Tommy was probably watching that fight going, thank God I didn't fight that guy, you know, because I don't know that Darren beats him, but he would have made it a tough night for Tommy for sure.
Yeah, and if that was a challenging fight for Tommy, then optics maybe wouldn't have been the best. Before we move on to our next topic, we recently just dropped the capsule collection for the new Misfits clothing range, so make sure to check it out in the description or scan the QR code on your screen to get access to our newest clothing range. Check this out. If you use the code MFYouTube20, you will get an extra 20% off your order. Once again, that's MFYouTube20. Get the discount, get your clothes. We'll see ya. You've heard enough from me and BL Wade. So let's head to some of the community questions and see what answers you have. We've asked the audience, and first up, it's called W, which I believe is Jake Paul's deodorant brand. They ask, what deodorant do you use, Wade?
I actually don't use deodorant because the ladies, especially my lady, loves my pheromones. No. I think I have used W before. Shout out to those guys. But I use the I don't even know what it's called. It's like the green stick. Degree. There you go.
I thought it was going to be Old Spice.
No, you know what? Old Spice.
Old Spice guy.
Old Spice. There's something weird about it. I don't know. You know how like listen, I'm a sensitive guy. Okay. My skin is very sensitive. So like if I use the wrong thing, I break out. It's really bad. So I got to
Yeah.
use like the one.
Well, I'm making sure to get that one next.
There you go. Get you some degree, baby.
Degree. So our next question comes by at DH. He asks, how does stepping into the ring as a fighter compare to analyzing the action from the outside? Do you hear your inner commentator?
No. The only thing I heard during the fight was BJ Flores. That's the only thing I heard.
A scary thing to hear.
No, it's crazy because most fighters like they're like I couldn't even hear my corner when they talk,
Mhm.
about the fights. They're like I didn't hear my corner or I couldn't hear certain things or maybe I could. I just heard BJ. It was like everything else and I could just hear him. And again, not to go into too much of what we were doing in camp, but he was always in my ear during sparring, during training. He was like, I'm not even talking about like just talking. He was right beside me. And I think that was, again, without him telling me that was a pointed effort for him to get me familiar with his voice in times where I was maybe getting tuned up or times where I was winning or when I'm tired or when, we're working on something or I'm lifting weight. Like everything was his voice so that when I'm in the fight, I can differentiate it pretty quickly. But
That's
I could also hear the other corner as well a little bit. Especially in the fourth round. Go and get him. He doesn't want any more. And I turned around, I was like, nah, what? I'm like, I'm still here. What you talking about? I mean, he at one point he smiled at me and I blew him a kiss too. I was like, what's up? And I heard now someone told me this. I don't know if this is real. I heard, a bunch of people from that corner being like, bring it in. And someone said it was KSI's team doing that. KSI's coaches.
No way.
I heard that as well. I couldn't see it.
I couldn't obviously see, but it would make sense. They have a vested interest in not wanting me to win, but they gotta hold that one. All right, shoot fighters, y'all gotta hold that.
At Marshy Many asks, will Donovan Steele be making an appearance in your next fight?
No. Donovan Steele's probably retired forever because I am now in a relationship and
he only comes out in the bedroom, is what I heard.
My girl, yeah.
I was gonna say the key word's probably retired. You can never kill Donnie Steele.
Never. Fight night was after the fight night was great. We'll just leave it there. So, we'll just leave it there.
Our next question comes from Celtic Wolf Spain. He asks, is the fight between HS and Wade officially confirmed to be rebooked?
Not that I know of, but that's not anything to do with me. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to say I'm ready because right now I'm not ready to fight. If we told me to fight right now, no way. But when we are looking to do stuff in the future, that's up to coach and whatever options we have a lot, man. It's not about HS or any of these guys. It's about me, man. Like I don't want to start here like toot the own horn here, but go back to fight week and look at the interactions that not even just my fight, but any fight on the card had, including the main event. We did more, I should say, because it wasn't just me in there. It was Mosiah too. We were the people's main event. And we had probably we didn't win fight of the night. I was kind of pissed about that, but we had one of the best fights of the night, And so, I kind of control these things now. Whatever I want to do, I do. So whether it's HS or anybody else, we'll talk to the team and see what makes sense. But I want people that are going to show up, man. So whoever that is, show up and we'll do it.
In terms of engagement, that week was absolutely topped by you, and then closely followed, weirdly enough, by Little T and Afghan Dan. For some reason, they were getting some attention.
Yeah.
At Diaz asks, if you aren't fighting on the KSI card March 29th, would you want to do commentary, return to the on-air road?
I have an idea, and I'm not going to say it just yet because there needs to be things that I need to talk to some people about. But I have an idea that I think would work really, really well for that card. And I'm going to make a call about it later tonight, and we're going to see if that's possible. But if it is possible, then people would lose their shit, I think. Because let's just say this, as soon as the fight was over and, I got to come down from cloud nine a little bit, I go back into content creator brain, right? And how to obviously do what's next on that end, do what's next to the fighter. There's so many opportunities I have. This one, I was thinking so hard during camp about like not being content, not doing all that. that I think it kind of opened up my creative juices a little bit for after the fight. And now I've got this really cool idea that I want to do. And I'm going to talk to people and see if I can make it a reality. Stay tuned. Potentially massive, massive thing.
Basically, just making BL lead of everything is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, I was
in the
gonna say
grapevine.
I didn't put it out there, but it was like CEO Misfits Biel. That's what it
That's
was.
that's what needs to happen. That's what the people are asking for. Well, our next question comes from I think Ben's second account called Alex the Cobra asking, "Will you marry them?"
Yeah, that's definitely been second account. No,
You guys got me.
I am taken at the not even at the moment. I'm taken, man. The Chloe concept is got my heart, so no marriage outside of that right now.
I love it. Last community question from at Charlie McAdam. Who is on your boxing hit list? I think we kind of answered that. It's not
Hmm.
really about the opponent, but let's
Yeah,
define a couple names maybe that you'd want to
yeah. I
see
mean,
before it's all said and done.
that's such a yeah. Like HS is there for sure. Just because it was already booked, right? It doesn't really again matter about HS. It was just that was the fight that was booked. But we'll see. We'll see who, as they say in the UK, fancies it, right? Because a lot of people were really loud until I fought, and now a lot of people aren't. So maybe I'm not just the comment. Maybe you can't get one over on the guy that just does the talking. He does the walking too. So if you want to get in there and walk with me, let me know. You know what I'm saying? Take this walk with me. Let's see. Let's see who wants to do it. And again, the
I
cool
love
thing
it.
is I don't have to, right? So
Mhm.
whatever I want to do, I'll do. So take a number, get in line, and we'll see if it interests me, the team, and everybody else, and maybe we'll stick you in another people's main event. You know what I mean?
I love it. The ultimate power, the man who holds the stick. BL, any last questions, words for Wade Clements?
I think that's everything. I appreciate having you on, Wade.
Thanks, boys. Appreciate you guys, man. It was good to see you during fight week. I hope you guys are happy. I hope you're healthy. And everybody at Misfits, thanks for the opportunity. Legitimately, I know, again, personal stuff, whatever, beef, rivalry, all that put aside for a great event. And I thought it went over very well.
I love it. Wade, always a pleasure to chat with you. That's been the season 2 finale of Misfits News. We will see you guys back reloaded and renewed for season 3. For BL, I've been Ben the Bane Davis, and we'll catch you in the next one.